Right then, the Bundesliga returned to action this weekend and all eyes were on it, mostly because there was literally nothing else to watch. Most of us has completed Netflix by now. Some of you have even completed YouTube, which I didn't think was possible, but it sounds like some of you have because you've watched everything. So we all watched Bundesliga and we learnt some things. Here's 5 things we learned about Bundesliga this weekend. First one, football needs fans. Football without fans is like dancing without music. It's like macaroni without the cheese. It's like rum without the coke. Actually, it's not too bad, to be fair. Yeah. It's like Coronation without the street. It's like, figure it out. It's shit, innit? Let's be honest with it. This weekend we did watch the Bundesliga and it was unusual watching some of the games being played. I think I'm going to get into some of the reasons a little bit later on in this video, but it felt more obvious that something was amiss from the LASK game, which United played, which was behind closed doors. And before you comment, it might have been how drunk I was during the LASK game. That's definitely a factor. I'm not saying it wasn't a factor because I only remember the goals from watching the following day. But it did feel more egregious, and I don't know if that was the opposition. I don't know if it was the fact that you used to watching the Bundesliga with very good crowds. One of the great things about Germany is the atmosphere inside the stadiums. But it did feel more egregious. I think it's well clear that football without fans is going to be the case for the foreseeable future. And without the songs, the moans, the groans, the build-up of excitement as someone enters into the final third and as a ball goes in, that anticipation of the crowd feels very flat. Feels a lot like youth football, which on one hand makes it less weird for me watching it, but also I definitely feel like something's not right here. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure everyone was sort of feeling the same sort of thing. It could also be because we're not connected. You know, we've had a little sweepstake at work trying to figure out who should we support. I've decided I'm going with Werder Bremen, who's I'm going to be following because, like, are they good? No. Are they shit? Yeah, a little bit, but if you don't know why I'm following them, you need to go and watch a video me and Adam McCullough did, or it might have been on here actually. Basically talking about play-by-mail fantasy football. When people do say fans make the game what it is, obviously the quality that was on display was still quite high, although not at its highest. The match day culture, the football family. I'm thinking that football is at risk of damaging itself by forcing through playing football with no fans there. It's very weird. And despite Bundesliga having an enormous spike this weekend, I bet the numbers do that as this goes along. Number 2, HAALAND is a fucking machine. And by a machine, I mean possibly a robot. Now, it doesn't look like he's been programmed in how to give interviews. It's not only the way he runs, which might seem a little bit unusual. It's not only the absolute robot-like efficiency at which he scores goals, which might be unusual. But he doesn't like to give anything away in interviews, does he? Very one-word answer, very bombastic in them. He's just almost kind of like, there's a twinkle in the eye of when someone asks him a question and he goes, yep. He knows he's playing a game, and I kind of dig it. I saw him getting a lot of shit over the weekend, and actually this afternoon, John Walters has posted a full clip where he does elaborate more. He's obviously been clipped up with his one-word answers, but at the end of the day, he's paid to play football. Yes, the interviews is a side of it that you have to fulfill as part of your contractual obligation, and he's fulfilling it. He doesn't say in the contract that you have to give a wordy, flowery, Cantona-esque sort of interview every single time you play a game. He says you have to give an interview. He's given him an interview. And that's fine. And if he's got this attitude where, I don't know the history with his old man, whether his old man ever got stitched up by the press or whether he has been stitched up by the press back in Norway maybe, or even in Austria. I don't know. I suspect he might have done, or there might have been something that he's seen where someone's been taken out of context. Imagine that on the internet. And maybe he just decides, I don't need to give anything away. I'm here to play football. Maybe he's not confident speaking English, which I find hard to believe, but maybe that's one of the reasons for it. He doesn't need to give flowery, wordy interviews. Big response to it on social media, but actually it highlighted to me that he hasn't changed. He hasn't just suddenly arrived in Dortmund thinking he's a superstar and decided I'm not going to give interviews. His entire career he's been properly standoffish at arm's length with the press. At some point in the future, that might come to bite him on the arse, But while he's concentrating on his football and when he's scoring at the rate that he's scoring, it's probably not going to affect him too much. He did pick up where he left off, got a goal and assist, taking his tally to 10 goals and 2 assists in 9 games, which is only 6 starts, which is a fucking joke. Let's be honest with ourselves. There's only 2 players with more goals than him in the Dortmund team, which is Royce and Sancho, and he only joined in January, and the league's been shut for 2 months. Phenomenal. Number 3, the players don't seem fit. I think that kind of goes without saying. Yes, Bundesliga players, much like every fucker in England, apart from me, have been doing 5Ks like you bet them they couldn't, and running around. But there's different fitness to football. There's match fitness, there's sprinting, there's the intensity of a game, which you cannot really replicate. And it felt like the players weren't having it. There was also not really the sort of intensity and tempo that you associate with some of German football, apart from Dortmund. Dortmund just did what Dortmund do. But there was a flatness to a lot of the games. I watched quite a lot of the games, actually, over the weekend, and some of them were a bit of a joke. The Mönchengladbach and Frankfurt game was honestly like a training game. It looked like the players couldn't find a fuck to give. I think it was 1-0 up after 37 seconds, something bananas like that. It was just kind of like, what the fuck is going on here, lads? What is going on here? There was definitely a lack of fitness. There was definitely a lack of match sharpness. There's things that I believe that the players are only working in groups of 4. They're not allowed to tackle, which doesn't really prepare you for a match day. It's not even the same as pre-season, really, because the intensity will have been a lot higher. The contact will have been a lot higher in those training sessions. Everything will have just been totally ramped up. That's not been the case as people have slowly come out of lockdown, and the whole world is sort of adapting to coming out of these now at the moment. It's a weird one. Raheem Sterling's been out there on Instagram Live. He did one with Megan Rapinoe, the women's USA captain, and they was discussing what they think is going to be needed in terms of training for players ready to be the restart. He says you need a full 4 to 5 weeks, especially if you're going back into competition when you're literally paid to win. You need to do that preparation. You can't just go straight in. An 8-week break of no football and people fucking about in a park doesn't prepare athletes for competition at the highest level. And for everybody that's going, well, they're just fucking paid to get on with it, like, everyone else has to get on with it. There's a reason why these are the 1% of the 1% in world sport, and they're paid the sort of figures that they are, is because you can't just fucking rock up without fitness and go and play. I think it was off camera. I had a discussion with Berbatov about could he go and play in the MLS or anything like that, and it might have been on the podcast, I can't remember. But he was saying, I haven't been playing. I need that intensity of training. And if you go from idling to try and pick up the intensity, then you're going to start seeing things pop off left, right and centre. I expect to see a lot of players picking up real weird niggling injuries that they struggle to shake off. And I expect starting 11s are going to really change over the weeks as this goes on. Number 4, safety measures seem pointless. All the players would have been inside in a stuffy, tight dressing room after just getting their temperatures up and breathing heavy in the warm-up. Then they go and get inside where they're breathing in the same air as each other. You would hope that they're out of breath, otherwise it was a waste of a fucking warm-up. While they get their team talk. Then they're putting their masks on to go and sit in the stand, and the substitutes are sitting a couple of metres apart from each other. But you've seen players marking at corners where they're literally touch tight, like you're supposed to be, but then when someone scores a goal, they're standing off and clapping. There's also this droplet thing where, if you've seen the guidelines, when someone's walking, there's a 30-second thing behind them where you shouldn't really go in the air that they've just walked through, and then if they're jogging, the mist cloud of droplets behind them is fucking huge. So, actually, running around on a football pitch with 22 blokes, if it's not safe to go near someone once they've scored a goal and celebrate with them, hug them, or even high-five them, it's not safe to play football. Because you're running around breathing in the air from everybody. It's just absolute nonsense. It feels like someone was just making sure there was a box checked and something visually looked okay. They've not looked into the common sense of it, because if they had, they'd realise that this is absolute bollocks and it's either safe for them to do or it's not safe for them to do. It makes absolutely fuck all sense to me. And what I am expecting at some point is one of the teams is going to go, hey, guess what? 5 of our players have got the Rona. Deal with that. Then the opposition that they've just played might have to isolate, and then fixtures are going to get fucked up, and it's all out the window. And finally, United's targets were not on form. Jadon Sancho didn't start for Dortmund against arch rivals Schalke and didn't really have much time to show off his talent to any United fans who probably only tuned in mostly just to see how Sancho was going to get on. Timo Werner's Leipzig cost me my sweepstakes and failed to beat Freiburg, meaning that they've now dropped out of the top three and into fourth place. Werner managed to create 5 clear-cut chances. RB Leipzig had, I think, somewhere in the region of 7,000 shots on goal and couldn't manage to get the win. It's clear that he's still creating. It's clear that he's still doing bits. It's clear that he's going to be an absolute handful for the rest of the season. Upamecano, same, no clean sheet, 1-1 draw. Leipzig dominated the stats and denied Freiburg lots of chances, but ultimately neither managed to impress. They even managed to score when they only had 2 shots on target. Not a great day for them. RB Leipzig were one of the teams that I think quite a lot of people was hoping would going to make it interesting in the top 3 and in the title race in Bundesliga. Looks like they might have put a bit of a dent in that at the start of the season. Expect an absolute glut of bullshit transfer rumours. Anyone who had a bit of a game at weekend, anyone who stood out, anyone who scored, expect to see them linked to United today, tomorrow, the rest of the week. Cheers for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe. Check out what's going on Patreon, where we're doing all sorts of extra content, and it's keeping the channel afloat during this absolute bullshit lockdown that we're all subjected to. So thank you guys for the support, for everybody that's in the Legends group. And if you want to go check it out, hit the link in the description. I'll see you in the next one. Laters.